Greetings and welcome to the Warhammer 40,000 Kill Team video, where today I'm going over the January 2026 Kill Team stats. But before we get into things, please remember to like and subscribe as well as comment. Let me know what you thought of today's video if you found it useful and helpful. Remember, I've got a Discord you can check out for free in the episode description below, and a link Element Games, and a link in Discord code at Crossfire Games, and a Patreon if you want to give me some more support. But let's get on with the video. So yeah, once again, I'm going over the annual monthly stats for Kill Team. And thanks goes to Smiles, Lies, Gunfire, because without them none of this would be possible. We collate all our information from Best Coast Pairings, as well as a few other apps, and there'll be an article version to the stats website, linked down for free in the episode description below. So let's get on with the stats review. So starting off for January, on the world map, America had 43 events with 500 players, then Spain with 17 and 312, then the United Kingdom with 11 and 208, and then you can see the rest of the countries featured, including, you know, like Denmark, Ukraine, and the Philippines. And then as you can see in the world map, the brighter the color, the more densely populated it is. So, you know, just a lot of countries featured, which is great. And we had around 1,700 players, so a little bit less than last month, but it's still a good spread of players for winter. Going on to the January win rate, so for events with 8 or more players and 3 or more rounds, Galapox, they have 12 games with a 67% win rate, which is excellent. Pathfinders with 8 games have a 63% win rate. Then Wolf Scouts with 489 games have a 60% win rate. Then Chaos Cult with 60% with 64 games. Mandrakes on 59 with 217 games. Then Canoptic on 58 with 289 games. Then Legionary on 55 with 43 games. Then in the healthy range, continuing that on, we have Blades of Cain on 53%, Raveners on 53, Brood Brothers on 53, Farstalker Kimban on 53, Inquisition on 53, then we have Felgor on 52, Wreckers on 52, Goremongers on 52, Exaction Squad on 51, Vespid on 51, then Corsairs on 48, Aquilons on 48, along with Commandos, Nemesis Claw on 47, Novitiates on 46, Hand of the Archon on 46, along with Angels of Death and Phobos, and XV26 Stealth Battlesuits, and then Blooded at 45%, along with Deathwatch. Then just below the healthy range, we have Wormblade, Rattlings, Jaegers, Sanctifiers dropping down to 43%, Plague Marines at 42%, Halfkin Salvagers at 40%, along with Battleclade. Then we have Star Striders at 37%, Kazakin at 36%, Deathcore at 34%, Foy Dancer Troop at 33%, along with Hunterclade, Breachers at 32%, Scout Squad down at 30%, Warp Coven at 29%, and then Hyrotech Circle 25% with 28 games. So here's the chart, you know, we're classified chart. So as you can see, technically with the declassified teams removed, it looks a little bit better. Only a few overperforming teams, just Wolf Scouts, Chaos Cult, and Mandrakes, and Canoptic. And then for underperforming teams, you have Rattlings, Jaegers, Sanctifiers, Plague Marines, Halfkin Salvagers, Battleclade, Kazakin, Breachers, Scouts, and Hyrotech. And then as you can see with the declassified, you can kind of have a similar spread. Obviously Galapox and Pathfinders were overperforming, but they didn't have many players whatsoever or games. And then for underperforming, you have Star Striders, Deathcore, Void Dancer Troop, Hunterclade, and Warp Coven. Now here's the podium data. So we track gold, so how many times a faction won an event, how many times they went undefeated, and yeah, how many times they were picked. So looking at the chart, it's fine. Wolf Scouts won 16 events again, and podium 10 times. They did exactly what they did in December. This is all fine. They've hit their level, and their level is, oh my gosh, it's fine. Yes. Then Canoptic, they won 8 events and podium 9 times. Mandrakes won 8 events and podium 4 times. We're like going undefeated. Wreckers won 6 events, going undefeated 7 times. Raveners won 5 events, going undefeated 4 times. Deathwatch won 5 events, going undefeated twice. Farstalker Kimban won 4, going undefeated twice. Blades of Cain won 4 events. Vespid won 3 events, going undefeated 4 times. Angels of Death won 3 events, going undefeated twice. Goremongers and Felgor both won 2 events, going undefeated once each. Aquilons, Brood Brothers, and Plague Marines all won 2 events. Then we had Chaos Cult and Hand of the Archon winning 1 event each and both going undefeated twice. Then Nemesis Claw and Exaction both won an event and went undefeated once. Then Inquisition and Rattlings won an event. Stealth Suits went undefeated 3 times. Jaegers went undefeated twice, and Halfkin went undefeated once. So an interesting spread. Obviously the top end is not good, But there's positives. Other factions are winning events too. It's not all just Wolf Scouts and Canoptic. Then for declassified factions, Legionary, Galapox, Pathfinders and Corsairs all won one event, with Phobos and Commandos both going undefeated once. So a nice spread there. Then we go into GT Plus events. So these are for events with 4 or more rounds and 16 or more players. So for Corsairs, they had 2 games and a 75% win rate. They are the too strong, those Corsairs. Chaos Cult with 20 games had a 70% win rate. Ratling with 16 games had a 66% win rate. Legionary had 65 with 10 games. Phobos had 63 with 4 games. Blooded had 63 with 4 games. Wolf Scouts had 59% with 241 games. Exaction Squad had 57% with 30 games effectively. Mandrakes on 55%. And then in the healthy range, you've got Raveners, Brood Brothers, Canoptic. First time I think I've ever seen them not above 55 at 53%. Felgor at 53. Then you have Wreckers, Wormblade, XV26 Stealth Suits, Vespid, Nemesis Claw, Angel's Death, Inquisition, Kazakin, and then Halfkin Salvagers with Blades of Cain and Jaegers. And then just below the healthy range, we have Sanctifiers at 44, then Hand of the Archon at 43, Aquilons at 42, then you have Battleclade at 41 with Deathwatch at 40, Plague Marines at 37, Farstalker Kimban at 36 with Breachers and Star Striders, War Covenant at 25%, Scouts at 13%, and then Void Dancer Troop with the legendary 0% win rate. So here's the classified chart. It's wonky, but if you remove Chaos Cult and Rattlings because of their low, representation rate, actually it's just really Wolf Scouts that were the consistently overperforming team. And then obviously you have some really badly underperforming teams. And then with the declassified list, it's just as wonky, but there's less players, obviously. And then you have Void Dancer Troop with the legendary 0% win rate. Now we go into podium data for GT Plus. So we've got golds, how many time a faction went undefeated, and how many time a faction went minimum 3 wins and maximum 1 loss. So on the chart, you can see Canoptic won 4 events, podiuming twice. Wolf Scouts won 3 events, podiuming 3 times, and then going undefeated 2 times. But they also had the max 3-1 results at 17. No one was close. Then we had Mandrakes winning 3 events, podiuming twice. Wreckers won 2 events, podium twice, going undefeated twice. Raveners won 2 events. Deathwatch and Rattlings both won 1 event and went undefeated once each. Brood Brothers won an event. Then we have Vespid going undefeated twice and podiuming twice. Felgor and Exaction both podiumed once and went undefeated once. Then Stealth Suits, Halfkin and Chaos Cult all podiumed once. Nemesis Claw and Battleclade both went undefeated twice. Well, they both podiumed twice. And then Goremongers, Aquilons and Sanctifiers all podiumed once as well. So interesting things when you look at like Deathwatch and Rattlings, their win rate wasn't too great, but they actually won some events in GT Plus, which is actually quite respectable. So an interesting spread there, especially if you ignore Wolf Scouts. And then going on to the declassified list, you can see it was just Legionary who won 1 event and had the podiumed once and had the highest rate of 3-1. Now we go into GT Long. So these for events with 5 or more rounds and 30 or more players. There was only 1 event again this month. Last month it was Poland. This time it was the Palm Springs Open by Warhammer in California. So, as you can see, Raveners with a 68% win rate with 40 games. Felgor with a 64% win rate, only with 11 games. Wolf Scouts with a 62% win rate with 53 games. Goremongers on a 56% win rate with 33 games. Wreckers on 56 as well with 45 games. Then in the healthy range, you have Mandrakes, Canoptic, Jaegers, XV26 Stealth Battlesuits, Nemesis Claw, Brood Brothers, and Vespid. Then for the underperforming faction, you have Hand of the Archon at 43. Then you have Farstalker Kimban at 42, Sanctifiers at 32, Deathwatch at 31, Plague Marines at 11, and then unfortunately, Halfkin Salvagers with the legendary 0% win rate. So here is in chart format. It's unintentionally, once again, just to look at 1 event. So Raveners, Felgor and Wolf Scouts, and the Goremongers to an extent with Wreckers were overperforming, and then underperforming at Hand of the Archon, Farstalker Kimban, Sanctifiers, Deathwatch, Plague Marines, and then Halfkin. So, an interesting spread for a 42-player event with 11 rounds. Then looking at the podium data, well, Raveners won the event, so they were the only one to win an event. And then Canoptic and Wreckers both podiumed. And then outside of Raveners, XV26 Stealth Battlesuits had the highest rates of maximum 1 loss and 3 or more wins. So very interesting spike there. There was only Raveners and Stealth Suits who could actually accomplish that, so very impressive. Now, these are the Q4 full win rates for GT+, so this is looking at the whole quarterly data, kind of seeing what was overperforming and if Games Workshop actually correctly balanced the game based on the latest Balance Dataslate. So as we can see, Wolf Scouts, 61% win rate with 457 games. Then Canoptic, 61% with 523 games. Chaos Cult was overperforming at 59% with 85 games. Felgor were overperforming at 58%, 206 games. Blooded were on 58 with 40 games. Mandrakes were on 56 with 304 games. Kazakin were just above 55 with 37 games though. Then in the healthy range you've got Corsairs, Brood Brothers, Wormblade, Goremongers, Wreckers, Exaction Squad, Inquisition, Novitiates, Raveners, Jaegers, Fast Talker Kinban, Deathwatch, Hand of the Archon, Ratlings, Nemesis Claw, Commandos, Blades of Cain, Vespid, Angels of Death, Stealth Battlesuits, Legionary, Phobos, Star Striders. Then for the underperforming factions, you have Sanctifiers at 43%, then you have Void Dancer Troop, Death Corps, Warp Coven, Plague Marines, and then Imperial Navy Breaches at 40% with Aquilons, Halfkin Salvagers at 36%, you have Battleclade, Hierotech sit at 35% with Scout Squad, Hunterclade exists at 26%, and then on the legendary 0% for the entire quarter, it was Pathfinders. So here's the classified version of this chart. So as you can see, Wolf Scouts and Canoptic at the top, not really surprising. Then you had Chaos Cult, Felgor, and Mandrakes, with only Mandrakes out of those three actually being nerfed. So Chaos Cult and Felgor were left alone by Games Workshop. Then for the underperforming factions, you have Sanctifiers just underperforming a tad, along with Plague Marines, who did get buffed. Then Breaches, Aquilons, Halfkin, Battleclade, Hierotech, and Scouts. So all those factions, sans Aquilons, all got buffed. So very interesting spread there. And obviously Deathwatch continue to be like the most common faction in the game, but we'll see how long that lasts, considering last month it was Wolf Scouts. So it's interesting that they've clawed some numbers back, but this is just for the quarterly data. Then for the declassified GT Plus win rates, you can see Blooded were overperforming. Then pretty much most of the factions within the healthy range, Void Dancer Troop, Death Corps, and Warp Coven were at 43, with Hunterclade and Pathfinder severely underperforming. Pathfinders got buffed, Warp Coven and Death Corps did, Void Dancer Troop didn't. So you can see Games Workshop were also a little bit off when it came to the declassified kill teams as well. Then we've got the placing data for GT Plus for Q4, as you can see on the chart, well, on the table. And then in the chart where this combines like how well a faction is predicted to place based on podium data and like win rate. So technically, if you're going through like best placing factions, it'd actually be Chaos Cult and Felgor, then Canoptic, then Mandrakes. Oddly, Brood Brothers, Wolf Scouts, because they have so many players, actually aren't as successful as you'd think. Then Vespid, and then below the healthy range would be oddly Aquilons. They've had quite the flip since Wolf Scouts have come out. XV26 Stealth Battlesuits, Jaegers, Sanctifiers, Plague Marines, Breaches, Kazakin Scouts, and Hierotech. So those, according to the stats, are basically factions that can't place well at all. But obviously this was before the Balance Dataslate. And then for the declassified placing rate, Phobos consistently doing above normal, Legionary in the healthy range, Void Dancer Troops in the healthy range, and then all of her declassified teams not in the healthy range, but that's not really surprising considering their low play rate. As an extra bonus, because we were able to get actually a lot of events using the new Balance Dataslate, this is like future February stats. So this is just looking at all the events that use the new Balance Dataslate. So Gellerpox with 3 games have a 100% win rate, Ratlings with 19 games have a 79% win rate, Inquisition with 19 games have a 71% win rate, Vespid have a 69% win rate, Goremongers have 69 as well, both very nice, Wrecker Crew at 59%, Breaches at 58, Angels of Death at 57, Hunterclade at 57 with Legionary, Exaction at 56, Hierotech at 56, then we have Kazakin at 55. Then in the healthy range, you've got Hand of the Archon, Aquilons, Wolf Scouts, Warp Coven, Sanctifiers, Void Dancer Troop, Corsairs, Phobos, Canoptic, Felgor, Chaos Cult, Raveners, Mandrakes, Nemesis Claw, Star Striders. Then for the underperforming factions, you have Commandos, Death Corps, Fast Talker Kinban, Deathwatch, with 100 games, almost the most popular faction in the game, just behind Wolf Scouts. Then we have Jaegers at 42, Plague Marines at 42, Halfkin Salvagers at 42, Stealth Suits at 40, Scouts at 40. Then we have Battleclade at 39, Brood Brothers at 38, Blades of Cain crashing down to 35, but only 40 games, Novitiates at 25%, and then Pathfinders and Wormblade on 0% win rate. And here is how it looks with the graph. So very wonky, but you have to remember this is basically one weekend of events. So it's actually not many, and it's not like, you know, concrete, but it's just interesting to see how the first weekend of a balanced data slate has affected the meta in whatever way it can. So, because we haven't been able to do this before. So it's a nice kind of future look at what may be in store for February. And then on the declassified side, you know, Gelapox, they're like, no one plays me? Well, I'm going to beat everyone with 3 games. Then, you know, most of the factions are actually in the healthy range. Deathcore just missing out, Novitiates underperforming, Pathfinders and Wormblade with 0% win rate, which is all very fine. Then we have the podium data, as you can see for February in the table. And going from the podium chart, we can see Wreckers won 3 events and went undefeated 2 times. Wolf Scouts still won 3 events, although it's not 16 this time, but it's only 1 week of February. Angels of the Death won 2 events and podium twice. Fastalkers won 2 events and podium, well, went undefeated once. Deathwatch, Kazakin, Goremongers and Raveners all won 2 events. And Deathwatch, despite their poor win rate, are still winning a lot of events. Aquilons and Rattlings won an event and both went undefeated once. Vespid, Nemesis Claw, Plague Marines, Felgor and Breachers all won 1 event. Inquisition went undefeated twice. Chaos Cult, Canoptics, Stealth Suits, Exaction and Mandrakes all went undefeated once as well. And then on the declassified side, it was only Gelapox who went undefeated once. So Gelapox leading the charge for the declassified, yassified kill teams. And then here's just the list of all the events we've used for the month. As you can see, you know, palm screens at the top because it was only GT long, and then as you can see down below. So for the January 2026 kill team stats, there's no real change. Obviously, we've just had a new balanced data slate, which have kind of shaken things up. Wolf Scouts terrifyingly did exactly what they did in December, where they won 16 events and then podium 10 times, which is terrifying. I've never seen a faction do that 2 months in a row, back to back. You know, we did have a lot less players and events for January, but, you know, it's the lull between, like, just after Christmas. We should see events pick up again around the March to May season. Usually May is when proper tournament season picks up. And yeah, Canoptic continued to be a problem. Deathwatch, so Wolf Scouts are the most popular faction in the game right now. Deathwatch is not doing well in terms of win rate, but they're actually still doing very well from podium data. So we've got an interesting change here, because usually when a faction's win rate drops off, their podium data drops off, but not so much with Deathwatch. Fastalker Kimban still doing very well from podium data perspective, and they've just been like sitting in the middle. XV26 actually had a good December, well, good January, sorry, but then overperformed as a whole still. But their players have shown they've still got some strengths, which is good. And we've got some more life from the declassified kill teams, hopefully a sign that more events are running declassified events, which is great. So, you know, using like all the kill teams available to the community. But we also saw consistent overperformers like Chaos Cult and Felgor Ravager, both who are untouched by Games Workshop in the balanced data slate. Mandrakes were still doing very well, but they've been, you know, nerfed slightly as well. We also don't have the effect of Murder Wing and Celestian Insidiance. Oddly, everyone was really good this month and no one decided to use them on launch at tournaments. So there was no data for them. We have to wait for February, but I'm sure there'll be nice additions to the meta. Void Dancer Troop didn't have the greatest of months again, like, well, weirdly, because they were doing very well prior to this. And then Blades of Cain actually did pretty all right, you know? Blades of Cain players, what are you doing? We all agreed we would just run Mono Die Avengers. We need those buffs. But yeah, you know, it's interesting. It's always fun to look at how the meta ended just after a balanced data slate. So, you know, February should be very interesting. We've had a lot of changes. New balanced data slate. We've got Murder Wing and Celestian Insidiance. We should have some more events as well. Like February is starting where like starts to pick up. In the UK, we've got a lot of events. So for like March as well, we've got the Windsor GT, then we've got the Goonhammer Open GT run by myself, and then I think it's the South Coast GT at the end of March as well. And, you know, we've got Adepticon in March. So there's lots of events going to come, and it'll be interesting to see how it plays out. February is going to be like the big litmus test where, you know, after the first month after Balance Dataslate, everything's kind of hectic, and it usually settles out in the second month. So we'll probably won't see the full effects until March, but kind of worried slash excited to see what happens in February. But that's pretty much it for me today. Thanks goes to Smiles Lies Gunfire. Without him, none of this would be possible. And you can see his stat website in the episode description for free, where you can go over stuff like faction matchups, which I can't cover here. But please remember to like and subscribe as well as comment. Let me know what you thought of today's video, if you found it useful and helpful. Let me know what you thought of the stats. Remember, I've got a Discord you can check out for free in the episode description below, an affiliate link on games, an affiliate link at discord.crossfire games, and a Patreon if you want to give me some more support. And I'm just going to shout out my patrons. So for my adepts of the crew, I've Thor of a Big, Cruddy, Vadim, Alexis, Alex, Marshall, the Houston Toad, Dan, Amorphium, Draken, Fangzu, Lucas, Graham, Tom, Mr. Meatwad, Dada Goldens, Nick, Super Cow, and then for my veterans of the crew, I have Rolling Zeros. So thank you so much for all your support. It really means a lot to me and helps support the channel. But yeah, this is my second video for the week. I've actually recorded 2. You know, I've got one for next week and then one for when I'm back from holidays. Look, I've had a nice haircut in preparation for the holiday, but also for the new Mesa. Ooh, it's making me feel romantic, you know, so nice. So put that fade. So no matter what the stats say, remember, you always have a chance to win as long as you can roll a crit.